My greatest fear with the meat rack is that when the shit hits the fan, people won't have each other's backs. No matter how loyal we seem on the surface, fear makes people run. I worry that to some degree, the meat rack is less a home with a future and more a temporary refuge. I worry that in this world of power and wealth, when push comes to shove, we won't stand up. And that after all of our struggles, lost limbs and loved ones, all the wars we've fought and all the things we've survived, some will confuse our physical weakness for a lack of strength. I worry that the safest place in the waterfront to some will be crushed under the boot of someone richer and more powerful than all of us, and that while we must tread lightly, we can't just give up. The meat rack was a decaying corpse when I found it in the waterfront. It was drained of all of its resources and left to rot. The streets were strewn with trash and rubble. The sewage pipes were connected to the gas pipes. People were homeless, living in abandoned businesses, condemned buildings. It was nothing. No one offered it new opportunities. No one believed in it. No one cared that it was dying. No one cared that it needed help. They saw it lacked credits and didn't care that it was the very thing holding everything up. At the time, it was temporary. Another squatter's trespassing. But time passed. I made friends. We hosted events in the street, sold odd drinks, rented apartments out to people, and opened the pawn shop. We fixed one thing after another, and soon it wasn't just abandoned buildings and empty streets. We made it a home. Home is where the people are, is something people will always say to us when we've lost our homes. But when we feel like we have no place to belong, we scatter. When we lost our home, I found myself in a dark alley with the Aether, feeling like all of my purpose was gone. All the people I cared about weren't comfortable in the wasteland. They found refuge in the Scouts, the Misty Shore, the Lying Fork, the Shutdown. All of my drive went into killing the things that took our home from us. And then when someone with power beyond my comprehension told me we were too weak to help fight the Aether, they told us to evacuate the area. Run. Even though every bone in my body was telling me to stay and fight, and even die. The only reason I didn't stay was because some of you wanted to fight with me, and I knew the risk. When we found the meat rack, we fought tooth and nail to make it into something that functioned and had a life of its own. We fought in the sewers, were skewered in the tunnels, we scavenged in the wasteland, died in the waterfront, we saw the beams in the sky, were attacked by endless swarms, lost our legs, defended our synthetic friends from scrappers, fought mechs, avoided the plague's flames, dealt with corrupt ZPD, we were blown up, down, blasted with fucking lasers, stabbed and shot, we were kidnapped, held hostage, threatened, and murdered. And when we had our differences, we fought in the street and held together like glue. When explosions blew open the street and massive beams alerted the ZPD, we exiled powerful people, spat at the rich, and when they told us we were too weak to fight the Aether, we pushed through and laid on the concrete floors of the bar, drenched in our own blood and sweat after reclaiming our fucking home. While most of the waterfront was lost. We all have had our different values, different backgrounds, different ideals, and it's not as simple as right or wrong or black or white. Because of this, every time I speak, I find myself tense. Every word that comes out of my mouth, every time I sit down to relax, every time I make a joke, every time I go to the onsen and sulk because someone I care about is passing or something horrible is happening. Every time I get frustrated and snap, every time I yell in the street, every time I make any decision, right or wrong, happy or sad, I am representing the safest place in the waterfront. And because of that, we have gone past the point of hiding in the shadows. This is no longer an abandoned building hidden from the world, but it can return to the building crushed under the boot of the rich and powerful. They see us, and they want to benefit from what we've built. They want to crush us before we get to the point where we can crush them. They fear us. One little mistake, a powerful entity, a corporation, a fucking god, a few requests for people's health and safety in front of a councilman. We risk making a choice that makes us stumble or fall. But we are still inching ourselves forward. And even a wrong step can still be the right path. The meat rack's foundation is built on no strings attached. The meat rack fights for the meat rack. We analyze everyone that comes in and judge them for who they are, and we make our own decisions. We have expanded and struggled to break even, and only just recently have we begun to be self-sustaining in the poor infrastructure of the waterfront. To the entire Zephyrian Council, I brought up the following. The water is contaminated in the waterfront. It is difficult to get fresh food. We can't grow plants because of the pollution and lack of sunlight. Crime happens because of a lack of opportunity. Arresting doesn't help. Crime happens because things are expensive. Medical supplies, food, and water. Corporations buy out everything and charge ridiculous prices. And they crush local businesses. People can't afford it, so they leave. I brought up that the Medstech Corporation came down the corporal elevator and shot a maelstrom in our street. A patron possibly got hit with shrapnel. Other forces were watching, forces we were told to stay calm and normal around, or it was bad for everyone involved. This was our only incident that day, as I had informed my staff that things had to stay calm. Rogue brought up that synthetic people needed clarification on their rights in Lower Zephyra. A day later, Nemesis responded, "All deals, products, or income affiliated with corporations in regards to the meat rack need to be run through Nemesis. Upon pending process, both Hamsky and Nemesis need to agree on a corporation to assist them. If anyone goes against this new law, fines and jail time will be enacted based on severity. The meat rack is the safest area of the waterfront. Bills shall be increased. Taxation, property value has increased drastically. If not, punishment upon normal regulations, 20% increase. On the 12th, fresh seafood and products will arrive at the meat rack. Every 2 weeks, meat rack staff members have to go to work at the docks, and at the end of the month, the water shall be fixed, starting with the meat rack's area going out. I believe the price hike is punishment for speaking up for the people that live in the waterfront. Bills, taxation, and property value being increased will force people to look elsewhere to live. In the near future, I was looking to increase pay for employees, but now I will have to raise the prices on apartments so we don't go under. And I'll probably have to take another job. I'll still have to raise my employees' pay so they can even think of surviving down here. A few of our staff have decided to possibly fork over some of their credits to increase people's pay, but this is not us being self-sufficient. The new taxes are the opposite of our goals. It works against the waterfront's best interests. It is a direct attack on the people. It forces more crime and more desperation and more chaos in a time when we need peace. In this time, my only goal is to keep the meat rack and the area around us together and comfortable. It is important that we stay calm and focus on the future and not panic in the moment. The credits issue is a temporary solution, but we will stick to our path, even though it is the most difficult one. Be aware that even though we have to tread lightly, sometimes we have to face our problems head on, and it's not my choice to make for you. But in the end, I will have to make a decision that may or may not be good for you. But believe me, my mind is on the health and future of the meat rack. This is not a war. This is politics. And we are being used as ammunition. So we stand together or we die alone. The meat rack fights for the meat rack. I love you.
I love you too.